welcome to day 2. I'll move my microphone a bit closer. Of the animation of 8 weeks. So on today's little challenge, it's going to be a take or a reaction. So the best sort of approach for this would be to do a pose-to-pose animation to work out the timing, and then in between all the layers with straight ahead. So that's the approach I'm going to go with. So we've got a new layer down here. I'm doing this on the same stuff, so we know nothing's new here. So I'm going to remove that. See our little mouse head. So last night I was thinking about what to do for the pose-to-pose animation, and I was thinking of having something like this. So we have Mickey Mouse over here, and he's holding something that's really hot. So we'll just do a handle there. And in pose 1, he's got a normal expression. This will have a sort of... And it's probably going to be about like that sort of framing, so we're not going to see much of his legs or waist. Then his expression will change and he'll be like, oh shit, it's really hot. And then he will recoil back. We might go down, we might go up, I'm not quite sure, we'll see how that works. Like that. And then finally he will settle on a pose of like holding his hand and looking at the thing with contempt. Yeah. So the reason I've gone for this is because we start out in a pose like this, with this imaginary line of action, and we end in a pose like this, but in the other side. So that's the front, and then that's the front. So it's more of a straight line. So you get this kind of movement from one line to the other. So I'm going to start with the planning phase of this. So I'm actually going to use this as a template for what I'm going to do. So we're going to start with the... I'm going to make a new layer. Make a new layer, and this will be the handle that we want in that. Just put the opacity down on that. If you want to lower opacity on this, when you do that, I don't think it does it in the final render. It might, but I'm not quite sure. So let's make a little handle here. So considering his arm's going to be about here, his body's about there, the handle should be about like that. Really simple, not much to it. And yeah, that should be fine. This is the handle there. And we'll continue that on. We'll go for 18 frames for now, but it's probably going to be less. It could be more. So, sort of a good thing also to plan for this would be our starting pose, which is where we're going to draw first. So we know what Mickey Mouse's hands look like that. I'm just doing blobs at the moment to get the volumes right, because I don't think that doing it full cloth straight away would be a great way of doing it. What's the other arm doing? That I don't know. What could it be doing? So this one's holding the thing. So this one should be maybe just like hovering here. That doesn't look natural, does it? It'll probably just be down by the side here. So I'm using that as a reference. He's going to hand again. Then we'll make his shoulders kind of hike up. And we'll elongate the head a bit. And probably as a precursor to this frame, we will because it's elongated, I'm going to make the ears droop down a bit, sort of like they're following afterwards. One of the things I really love about digital art is the undo button. Everything else, I prefer the texture of a physical pencil and paper, but in just the undo button is just so good. It's like the king of digital art. So we've got a normalish kind of expression there. Maybe have him looking down. Yeah, that should work. Then, yeah, so there'll be an in-between of that where he's like, draw it real quick. Where he is going to go down. He's going to remain that shoulder up. The hand doesn't really move. The arm like bend a bit more. So we'll put the hand there. And then the shoulder stays there, but the arm bends. That should give it. I don't know if that's smaller or not. See, that would actually make the ears go up a bit more. So this is going to be a really down expression. I'll make him fatter because he's squashing. So logic is he's like this. What? Yeah. And then we go. So what was the next pose? Next pose was the sort of whipping around. That. And then finally will be that. But I'm going to do the settling pose first because I think the volumes are going to get a bit distorted. So let's go with that. And we'll put his head, his head's there, so we want him roughly the same size. So let's have him like that. And another one. I'm just going to cut that out for now, just so it's out of the way. And yeah, it should be really interesting. What do we want his ears then? I think it'd probably be best to just use his ears like normal. It looks a little long to me, so I'm actually going to bring his head down a bit. I think I might have put it a bit too high, especially considering that this is a squashed, this is a stretched expression over here. So if I do that, that should probably get that pear body a bit more. Conical flask kind of look. And then he's going to be sad because he's burnt his hand. And do we want the ears there? Or do we want a bit more of it? See, I've kind of gone a bit too straight with this. I think I should have gone. Actually, I'm going to rub that out and try and make it a bit more of an angle. Because I think, yeah, my line of action is just a straight line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to rotate it a bit, just to get that extra sort of je ne sais quoi, which is French, I don't know. So that should be good. Yep, and then for the hands, I originally wanted it up here, but I feel like if we rotate the head of it, the ears are always in the way. How do we have that? We had it quite sharp down and then like that. So he's pretty much like twisted his entire body this way. So this should be like, the buttons come here really. I think I've made his body like a lot fatter than normal. I'm going to rub out a bit of that excess volume. And then for the arm here, we will do very simple, just that. For the ears, I'm gonna make them a bit, like originally I had it all over there, but you can see the silhouette's quite sharp, so I'm actually gonna bring them up a bit. I'm either gonna do that, or we're gonna go for that. No, that looks better. I could try just like a normal mouse. And I think the other answer is to bring out the hand a bit. Or we could do this, so we could have the hand kind of like limp. And I think that might add a bit to it. So yes, so 1, 2, 3, 4 keyframes are, we start off with him, we'll give him a little time, and we've got this, which is going to like shoot down, so we need an in-between here of him going from that to that. So personally, I think he should come like a kind of down and up. Probably like something like that. So let's try that. So I would say that he'd probably spend more time. He'd spend a bit of time here, a bit of time there. But there would definitely be this in between, probably about here, which would be kind of bullet shaped. I believe that's drastically smaller than that. And it'll be kind of bullet shaped, and you'll have that sort of like body jutting out forward. I think his pelvis would be the last thing to, or his leg area would be the last thing to kind of catch up with him. How it will catch up with him, I don't know. I think it's going to shoot his head up, his body will shift with him. Because if you move too many things at once, you'll probably lose the audience. Not worry about. I actually might move him up a bit. Like that. So the whole body's moving centrally. His hand's going to do that. I don't actually know what his other hand would be doing. We're not going to add speed, just a gimmick. And his other hand would kind of like shoot up here, I think. Might be like, whoa. No, gonna make sense. I think it probably would just follow naturally. It might be a bit too long. So let's try that. And then we need a big squash there. So these are called breakdowns. So you have keyframes, which are the key shots of this. So this would be a keyframe, and maybe that would be a keyframe, probably not. This is called a breakdown. A breakdown is the in-between action of where the direction of your arc is going to go. So I'll draw an example real quick. So if you have a point here and a point here, this main arc, or the thing that's moving the arc, is the breakdown. The in-between is all the stuff in between, pretty simple. So the breakdowns are arguably just as important as the in-betweens, maybe more so because they direct the direction. So he's going to shoot his arm over here. Okay, and we will so he's going to do that. I think we kind of need to redo the head a bit. I'll hit more down. And to be honest, more squashed. More kind of flat shape. It's still retaining that kind of volume. Probably very chunky in this. I don't know if the squash and stretch applies to his ears as much, because they are a secondary action. They're not really. They follow the skull. They're not. They don't really have bones to them, so they kind of flop about. And we'll add another one up here, which will just be... A little trick to in-betweening is... Okay, I'll show another example. Is that if you had a head here and you have a head here, the direct in-between would be in the middle. But your key poses and your key frames are what you want the audience to see most of the time. So it's better to to do your keyframes closer to them. It's called slowing in and slowing out. It doesn't apply to everything. More mechanical stuff is very precise. But for a lot of this, it would be nicer if it slows into it, because it gives time for the audience to read what you're looking at. And I've made the mistake many times, and my solution is always like, oh, I should just make the keyframes last longer. And then it doesn't look quite as good, because it just kind of... it looks quite stiff. So the cushioning part of it is very nice for that sort of bouncy, nice feel. So we're going to go for open hand, and then close his hand. So I've done a kind of mistake here, because I've kind of made everything arrive at the same time, so... which is never a good idea, but I kind of did it wrong, so excuse me for that. So what I mean by that is I've made the ears and everything arrive at the same time as the head and that one's. So you can get a lot more, see, it's a very stiff kind of movement. That's closer to it in between than it was Yeah, it's closer to an in between than it is a breakdown. So, that's my bad. So, we've got our motion. I can kind of remove this starting frame. Got that. And we're going to have a look at it in 4 frames. So, I'm going down. And yeah, it does look a bit, So in seeing that, I've seen what I kind of need to do with the hands here, and this is going to be a bad silhouette thing, but I feel like he would be looking at his hand, you know, when you like, you grip it. So it kind of makes a poor silhouette, but I feel like it's warranted here. I don't know if this is the case, and to be honest, I feel like I probably could put it out here and have his eye line look up a bit, but it would remove the squash. So it's a bit of a tricky process. But very much like day 1, where I had 3 different segments of this, I am going to add 3 different segments of this. So this is part 1, and it'll be keyframing, and in the next part I'm probably going to do more, I don't know, what will next part be? Probably more cleanup. I might have lunch, actually, before I start. So yeah, we'll do this, we'll do cleanup, animation, and in-betweening. Yeah, I'll in-between next and get the timing right. That'll be the next one. And yeah, so I'll see you in the next one.